Hey everybody, welcome back to Trading Capital's daily live stream of the market open. Today is currently May 16th, and we got some interesting economic data today that shot up the dollar, caused the markets to fall a little bit lower here. So core retail sales came in hotter than expected, which has spiked the dollar. So let me just pull up the DXY here so you can see that core retail sales number, which was released at 8:30. Let me just change my time here to New York. So you can see that core retail sales came in around 8:30 here, spiked it, had a big drop, had another big spike, another big drop, and now you're trying to push up on the dollar, which is causing the S&P to fall a little bit lower here, down around 411.63. So notice how on the S&P we never ever really confirmed above the break of this trend line that I've been watching. Now, the interesting thing is that you tried peaking above it here, got rejected. You tried peaking above it here, got rejected. So now you're gapping down. And the big question is, are we going to take out this low on the chart today? Or are we going to take out this high? So really there's a resistance level that's in place. We've been stuck in a range for quite a long time here. Very tight range. You know, really we've gone nowhere for quite a long period of time. And the big question is, are we finally going to break out of this range? Or are we just going to head to the low end and then bounce? So markets are gapping down. Typically what we've seen is markets being bought right back up in the afternoon session. So that is kind of the trend. When markets gap down, they often are bought back up. I'm kind of expecting the same thing, but let's just be careful here because the dollar is trying to catch a bid and move higher. And there's certainly some weakness in this market today. You also had Home Depot basically guiding down today, reporting earnings. They did not come in hot. So Home Depot is actually falling, closed at 288, and we're trading now down to 280. So that's about a 2-3% drop right now from the current open price. Let me just check to see if there's a long level. Obviously we are short Home Depot via swing trades, so that's good. But the only level I have on Home Depot for a long trade is basically this double triple bottom zone. That's primarily the only level I'll go long on Home Depot. You have natural gas creating a nice bid, so that one's definitely acting well, trying to continue its breakout. We discussed that short squeeze, which we're happy to see that it's kind of on the near-term precipice of hitting above this pivot high, which would create a short squeeze. You are, as of now, getting a confirmed daily breakout of this downsloping trend line. Of course, the day is just starting, but we'll have to pay attention to it very, very closely. But beautiful, beautiful breakout, bull flag break, and now you're coming up into this resistance pivot. And if you establish yourself above there, I mean, you have about a 19-20% range where nat gas can really start squeezing to the upside. So pay attention to nat gas. That's going to be good to see if it continues its bullish momentum. I'm just scrolling through to see if there's any other charts. I know we do have Tencent gapping lower. China stocks were strong yesterday. They're seeing a little bit of resistance. I think Baidu's still acting well today. No, it's given up most of its gains as well. So China stocks are kind of coming in today. Let's look at the QQQ. So I'm not really seeing too many pre-market trade setups. I mean, you have a little bit of movement in Home Depot, Lowe's, kind of those consumer stocks, those consumer building stocks. Bitcoin's under a little bit of pressure, still holding the 27,000 level. Tesla's red, XOM is red, McDonald's red, Costco red. So be careful, this day could be a downtrending day, especially since yields are negative, but you have stocks also falling on lowering yields. Actually, sorry, the 10-year yield is positive right now. Sorry, I apologize. Stand corrected. The 10-year yield's actually on watch for a breakout today of a downsloping trend line, kind of what nat gas is doing. You have 20-year yield also acting well, so I stand corrected. Yields are positive, which is only going to apply more pressure. If you look at the 10-year yield here, take a look at that move. And that's off of the consumer data. So markets are now open. Markets are now open. Let's look at the spiders here. So spiders are falling here. Spiders are seeing some near-term weakness, so pay attention to that. Nat gas is still holding up. You have all sectors red right now, except for broker dealers. But Apple's trying to push up. Microsoft's making a big push. So the spiders should get a bounce here because of the likes of those few names, those big cap names pushing up. Tesla's negative. NU is one that I'm paying attention to. NU on the short side. I do have a short level on NU at around, there's a little bit of a micro gap there, but I prefer to do this pivot high around 7. So a pierce of $7 gets me interested on an NU short. A pierce of $7. At least a starter position. So keep NU on watch because I am intrigued about a potential short. Markets are pushing up though right now. So NU's on watch for a potential short. You still have the spiders acting very, very well here. PAC W is catching a bid. So regionals are trying to push up. Nvidia just turned positive. So far a lot of buy the dip coming in mega cap tech. Apple's zooming higher. AMD's ripping. You have so mega cap tech. So the Qs are really starting to push higher here. Qs have almost filled its gap. So mega cap is seeing some massive amounts of strength right now. Big bounce coming in on the spiders. So spiders are still acting well here. Apple's near the highs, Nvidia's near the highs. So news up to that level. NU is hitting that gap fill. I am interested in a short. I want it at above 7. Markets are pushing up tremendously here. So buy the dip is coming in strong. You have SE down quite substantially. Let's just see if there's a level in SE. The only level I like, so it did fill that gap. I'd only like it down at the $73 level. But definitely keep NU on watch because that one's coming up into our level. It's almost there. Spiders are still acting well here, pushing up higher. Nat gas is up nicely. Oil's getting a little bit of a bid. You still have most sectors red except for financials now and technology. So technology is trying to lift this market out of the depths. Apple's surging here, so that's going to lift this market. So NU's kind of still hovering there. If you look at the strength, it is clearly in the QQQ today. Look at this strength. Going positive on the session. Jeez, mega cap tech is just ripping here, guys. Mega cap tech is just absolutely ripping. Meta's lagging, but AMD, Microsoft, Tesla, Nvidia, Apple, just a handful of stocks lifting this market higher. And what's interesting is the spiders are so weak still. Look at this, fading, but the Qs are at the highs. So that's a big divergence. There's a lot of selling happening in 500 companies as opposed to just a handful of stocks. Wow, AMD's just ripping. I do have a short level on AMD at around 99.50. Excuse me. 99.50. I have a short level on AMD. You can see you're basically coming up into this pivot high. Massive move though in tech. Microsoft trying to break out. Spiders are still acting weak though, and it's very interesting to see the spiders so weak, but tech strong. It's a very bearish divergence at this point in time. Apple's coming off the highs. AMD's still at the highs. 99.90, 99.50, sorry, gets me intrigued on an AMD short. Spiders are still weak right now. AMD's ripping higher. So markets are coming in a little bit. AMD almost hit our level, but just missed. Home builders are weak today under the sympathy of Home Depot. No trades yet. First Solar's catching a bid. AMD's softening. Spiders are trying to push up. The Qs are also still acting well. You have some Fed speakers coming out very soon here. Nike's under pressure right now. That chart's looking a little bit vulnerable to more downside. You have regional banks still at the highs, but the Russell, take a look at this Russell. The IWM is getting slaughtered right now. Absolutely getting slaughtered. So if the markets start breaking down, the Russell could become a short. QQQs, Nasdaq's still holding up. You have all sectors red except for technology. So clearly you can see the strength lies in mega cap tech. That's the only thing that's lifting this market right now. Copper's down, Dow Jones is down, lumber's down, and every other sector's down except for the Qs and XLK. AMD's at that level, guys. I'm going to pull up a short on AMD here at 99. Let's see if we can pierce that $100 level. Might be a little bit greedy. Actually, I'm going to grab it here, 99.80, guys. Short on AMD, 99.80. 99.80. It's just a starter position on AMD. It's a 1-6 position, 99.80. Next ad level on AMD would be, look, we're getting a pullback here. Would be about 50 cents higher at 100.3. That would be the next ad level. You're still seeing Apple strong, Qs are strong, spiders are now selling. I think we can look for about 50 cents to $1 on AMD. Apple's still at the highs of the session, ripping higher here. Apple's just surging. Wow. Spiders are still seeing some weakness here, guys. Home builders are getting hit today pretty sharply. So Pulte, KB Homes, ITB, and that might be because the long end rates are trying to break out. AMD's starting to come in. Look at this spider sell, guys. Spider's almost engulfing that previous candle. The Qs are still holding up near the highs. The Russell's very weak. Spiders look very weak. This is a potential short trade as well in the spiders if we take out this low. If you lose these pivots here, I mean, your next support is really down here at 410.20. Maybe a little bit at this pivot around 410.50. But this is a SPY short. I just want to let a little bit more time pass. AMD's still up nicely, but coming in pretty sharply. So AMD is coming down. We're almost to target on AMD, so definitely keep that on your radar. Costco took a big dump. The Russell's still very vulnerable and weak right now. I actually have a short on the Russell that I'm eyeing up if we can get a push back to 173.50. AMD's pushing back up to the high here. Bitcoin's still weak right now. Nat gas is ripping, up 3.68%. Nvidia, new high on Nvidia. Go figure. It's looking like it wants to head to that gap fill. Nvidia's now had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours of straight upside. So semis are just ripping. 291.50 is a gap fill at Nvidia. Look at this push on AMD. I'm going to add at 100.3. 100.8. So I'm still short AMD, slightly out of the money. All sectors still red except for the Qs and XLK. The Dow transports are getting rocked today. Even healthcare is under a lot of pressure. You have XLV falling sharply. All right, I just added to my AMD at 100.35. 100.35. It's a 2-6 position. So my average now is 100.5. 100.5, so we are slightly out of the money, but that's okay. Tech has just been on a runaway freight train right now. It hasn't really stopped or slowed down at all. So we should see it come down at some point. Alright, AMD is starting to come down a little bit more now. SC's down quite substantially, 12.95%. Horizon VKTX is down. Still strength in tech though. Still massive strength in tech. Spiders are pushing higher here. Wow, the spiders had a big rip. So now tech is taking a small breather, but spiders are ripping. Big push on Apple. Apple's ripping higher. Still inside of a bearish red bar, but acting well. Spiders almost filled its gap. I'm looking at a short on the Russell. If we were to push up a little bit more. So all sectors still red, except for technology. This is an XLK mega cap rally. You have Apple just ripping, AMD's ripping. So next ad level is basically at this 100.85 level. So spiders are almost positive. Spiders are almost positive here. Meta's ripping. AMD's still at the highs of the session. AMD's breaking out of a consolidation point. Qs are at the highs still. Wow, Nvidia's ripping still. Microsoft is ripping. AMD, I'm about to add to my AMD here. Alright, I just added at 100.85. 100.85. Nvidia's soaring and roaring. My average is 100.39 now. It's a 3-6 position. So markets are still strong. The spiders filled its gap. Sorry, the spiders have not filled its gap yet, but they're about to. They're very, very close to doing so. Nvidia is still pushing for a high, so semiconductors are still ripping higher here. Nvidia is looking like it's trying to make a new 52-week high. It's very close to doing so. Nvidia's roaring. Look at this spiders. They've almost gone positive. So buy the dip is really paying off as of now. KRE's ripping higher. Qs are still at the highs of the session. So Qs just made a new 52-week high. New year-to-date high. So Qs are trying to break out of their upsloping wedge pattern. Let's see if we were met with a reversal. The dollar's given up most of its gains. So Nvidia new high. Apple's hitting some minor resistance right now. 101.35 is the next level. Microsoft just made a new year-to-date high. Still so much strength in Nvidia, so without Nvidia weakening, we're likely going to see AMD stay elevated. So AMD is seeing its first little red candle. Nat gas is still holding up, but seeing a little bit of distribution. You have the Russell now coming down. Nvidia is still at the high of the day. Nvidia is still at the high of the session. First Solar's starting to come down a little bit more now. Spiders did not fill the gap. Nvidia is still pushing up even more now. So 101.35 is the next add level on AMD. 101.35. Markets are coming down now. The Russell's back to the low. Take a look at this Russell. Back down to the low. So this one is a short candidate now. The Russell, if we take out these lows, you have a gap fill, which are consolidating above. So that's minor support. Let's look at the QQQ. Qs are starting to see some resistance. They did make a new year-to-date high though, but notice how you're running into this resistance. I mean, you could push up a little bit more if you were to use this pivot. But the big level is, like I said, pre-market, is if we get a close above this level. We were rejected here. Looked like you're breaking out, rejected here, and now it looks like you are trying to hold above there. So definitely positive for the Qs. But the big question is, will it hold? Will it hold? I'm still seeing this is not a broad market rally. Every sector is red except for technology. So go figure. The Qs are up substantially. The spiders are well off the lows. The Russell's still weak, almost down 1%. But every sector is red except for technology. So you can clearly see that this rally in the spiders from the low to the high is really from a handful of companies. Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Google. You even have Tesla breaking now down, which is a potential weakening short. So Tesla, if Tesla loses this low, we have a short trade on Tesla. You got rejected, and it looks like it wants to head down to this gap, which is kind of interesting. Still waiting on AMD. Slightly out of the money on AMD, but we have maneuverability on the position. All sectors still red. Russell just made a new low. So Tesla, keep Tesla on your radar, guys, because I am intrigued about a potential short here on Tesla. All right, I just grabbed a Tesla short at 165, 165.02, sorry, 165.02. Tesla, 165.02. And we are falling. AMD is now falling. Spider, whoa, big dip on the spiders there. Jeepers. That was intense. So Tesla, we're short Tesla at 165.02. So AMD, we're basically almost break even on AMD. So that was a pretty big dip on the spiders that happened there. And now you have the Qs starting to weaken. Apple's coming in. Still waiting on Tesla. The Russell's making a new low, so regional banks are now under pressure. Biotech is actually under pressure. That's what I'm noticing. It's really biotech that's under pressure in the healthcare stocks. So the markets are catching a big bounce here. We're still just waiting on AMD. Spiders are still looking weak here, guys. Tesla's catching a bounce. AMD's still off of our level. Meta's still strong, although it's negative on the session. You have the Russell still at the lows of the session. Big cap tech is trying to push up again. So this is, again, predominantly led by mega cap tech trying to push up. XOM looks interesting for a long trade. It's actually coming up into a gap fill. I like the, let me just isolate down the level here. So the market's catching a nice bit off the lows there. But we'll see if we can basically see some more downside. Spiders are rebounding off of the lows now. All sectors are still red. Qs and tech are just lifting this market. AMD's pushing up again, so AMD's just off of our level. Let's see if we can get some more downside though. So you'll have some minor support at this pivot. But I'm really looking for a move break of this gap fill. Even to gap window looks likely. You have Apple that's positive, Amazon's up 1%, AMD's up 3.3%, but still a lot of selling that is occurring today despite the mega caps. Mega caps are holding this market up higher right now. And that's really about it. Tesla's now in the money nicely. Looking for about $1 on Tesla. The Russell's still weak today, exceptionally weak. Look at this Russell decline. So at some point, we should see the Qs break down a little bit more. But right now, Apple's still strong. So without Apple breaking, the Qs are going to remain resilient. AMD, we're still slightly out of the money, but that's okay. We're just waiting on the trade. Markets have been resilient today. Tesla's back up. AMD, we're flat. Tesla, we're out of the money. So AMD is starting to trickle down now. Still think it's very probable that we get a flush down to this sub 100. So markets are starting to break down a little bit more now. we look at Tesla, Tesla's almost down 0.9%. And the big question is are the other mega caps going to fade? You know, you still have AMD, Microsoft, Apple holding up this market. AMD, we're nicely in the money. All right, I'm going to put a break-even stop loss on Tesla at 165.02. A break-even stop loss. AMD's bouncing. I don't want to lose on this Tesla trade, but it's very, very whippy and wild. AMD, we're slightly in the money. I am seeing the dollar trying to perk back up here. The Qs are softening. Technology is softening. So again, it's very rare to see this market hold up as well as it is when every sector's red. And it's only the mega caps holding this market up, which is the Qs. There's a lot of selling, which is a little concerning. So are the other sectors going to strengthen up here? Or are we going to see the majority of the market pull down the... Sorry, I'll just mute my screen there. TLT alert. So I'm seeing yields likely breaking out to the upside. So the 20-year yield is having a big move to the upside, which is triggering a break of an inverse head and shoulders, which is weakening TLT. So that was a TLT alert that I got, which is signifying a breakout in yields. I'm looking at XOM for a long trade. Basically, the level I have on XOM we have this gap fill here that we're coming up into now, and this trend line. So I'm going to go long XOM just for a day trade around this 103.50 level. If we get a flush into there, 103.50. So keep XOM on your radar. I'm going to keep watching Tesla here and AMD. So AMD is still resiliently strong here. Spiders are trying to catch a bid. All sectors still red except for tech. Tesla's still weak right now. AMD's still strong. All right, XOM's coming into the level, guys. We're about 19 cents away, 20 cents away from going long XOM. AMD's still acting resilient here. Alright guys, XOM is in range. XOM is in range here for a long. 103.50. I want that 103.50 level or lower. I mean, even if it hits this down sloping trend line 103.44, but 103.50 is my level on the long side that I am prepared to do. Oh, XOM came within pennies of hitting that level. We may get one more little flush, but it came within pennies of hitting that level. It's pretty crazy. Dollar's still acting well, trying to push up. The Russell's seeing a little bit more selling. Dollar's still trying to put in some consolidation to move higher. Wow, XOM is bouncing right before our level. They bounced at a penny. Still technically valid, but they are bouncing at a penny before our level. AMD is still weak. So we're seeing the dollar break out, which is causing some pressure on the spiders. AMD starting to trickle lower. Tesla is just basically above our level. I'm watching for a stop out on Tesla. It's above our level, but I'm watching for a 5-minute close above, so we'll know in 3 minutes. But the QQQ is acting well here, or the spiders are still coming down. So the Qs are starting to fall a little bit here. That should help AMD. But Tesla's creating a nice bid here. It is still one of the weaker mega caps. Most of the mega caps are green, but Tesla's red. AMD is starting to soften just a little bit. So I'm seeing the regionals breaking down now. KRE is breaking down. Qs are still holding up. Tesla's trying to push up some more now, so the Qs are still acting very, very well here. AMD is pushing up. Nvidia hasn't seen one red candle yet in this session. Dollar's still nearing the highs, trying to push up. So what I'm observing here in the dollar is this is all bullish consolidation to try to break out of this range. And if we get above this pivot high, you're going to attack this 102.50 again. Microsoft's starting to soften, Apple's starting to soften. So really the strength today in tech is in SMH, semis. Semis are actually lifting this market higher, specifically Nvidia and AMD. So AMD just made a brand new high. AMD I just added here 101.45, 101.45. Google's surging up here as well. So my average now is 101.82. Sorry, 101.82. So we're seeing the S&P just putting in some consolidations. It is bearish right now. The dollar's making new highs. So we're short AMD at 101.82. We're out of the money. Tesla's just above our level. Tesla hasn't stopped us out yet. Tesla's coming back down, seeing some more selling. You are seeing the dollar trying to break out to the upside here. First Solar is getting pummeled right now. Markets are still holding up here though. Let's see if we can get some more downside in this market to cover some of these shorts. We're approaching 10:05 time frame, Nvidia is seeing its first red candle, 10-minute red candle of the day. Tesla's still trying to move up. AMD's still hovering near the highs. Dixie's still at the highs. XOM's coming down. I don't like that XOM level again because we've been hovering it too long. The only level I like on XOM now is about 103, 103.25. Spiders are pushing. Tesla's pushing. AMD's still hovering. So spiders are still acting well. The dollar's pushing up higher here. So the Dixie should soften up this market a bit. If the Dixie keeps surging like this, and we get this close above this pivot, which it looks very likely we are, your next resistance is up here. It's minor resistance though, considering we have traded there. But the Dixie is trying to push higher here, which is telling me that there is some selling and people are moving into the dollar. And stocks just right now are not getting the memo, and that's probably because, let me do a volume check on the spiders here. So yeah, we're trading a measly 5.7 million. I mean, that is nothing. It's a light volume session. But it doesn't mean that this markets can't sell. And again, every sector's still red. Only technology and the Qs are holding this market up. So it's really a handful of stocks. AMD, Nvidia, Amazon, Google, obviously the big cap. If you look at one ETF, Big T, let's take a look at Big T. So Big T is up 0.56%, outperforming the actual QQQ as a whole. So when the Qs are up 0.15%, and then you have Big T, which is just like, I believe, 6 of the mega cap companies, look how much outperformance that is. That's what's keeping this market up right now. That's it. Really, that's it. More concentration in the bigger mega cap names is the common theme of 2023. But at some point that does end. Still have yields acting well. The 20-year yield is trying to break out. The 10-year yield's trying to break out. Dollar's trying to push higher here. Nvidia is softening up a bit now. AMD's still at the highs. Tesla, we're still short Tesla. We're still short AMD. Spiders are now starting to come in. So spiders are seeing some more downside. QQQ. XOM is hitting that level that we were going to enter in, but because it consolidated, I wanted a little bit lower. The next level I like XOM at is 103.25. 103.25. Massive strength still in the market. Well, just in the Qs, I should say. There's a lot of weakness, but it's only tech. So let this thing come in. We're 6 cents away from XOM. We're 6 cents away from going long XOM. Markets are falling here. Now you have Apple weakening pretty substantially. Apple's giving up a lot of the gains that it had initially. So Apple's about to turn red. Spider, big dump on the spiders. And now you're seeing Apple and Microsoft soften up, as well as Nvidia. Those three companies alone, if they really start to turn negative, this is going to get ugly. And because the spiders are breaking some support, it makes me want to reconsider this XOM trade. I mean, just look at the spiders. We're not really at support. You had your initial bounce. And I mean, the next support is really down here. Dollar's still nearing the highs of the session. Apple's about to turn negative. So we need the semiconductors to weaken up here. Tesla's hovering off our level. That's coming in now nicely. I'm about to go long XOM. It didn't hit my level, missed it by a penny. Looks like it did, but it missed it by a penny. I had my order at 103.25. I'm going to lower it to 103.24 now. There's 25. All right, I'm long XOM, 103.24. 103.24 to 1.6 position. So I have 100 shares on that end. All right, so we're short Tesla, we're short AMD, we're long XOM. Next ad level on XOM would be 102.83. Tesla's still off of our level. AMD's starting to soften a bit. Still acting well though. We're slightly out of the money on AMD. So now you have tech starting to roll over. Every sector's still red except for tech. Tech is still holding right now, but it is kind of looking vulnerable in my opinion. It's only up 0.14%, 22 cents, and it goes negative. And then we have every sector negative. Nvidia's pushing back up. Bitcoin's under a lot of pressure. The Russell's at the low of the session. Healthcare is under pressure today as well. Geez, so the spiders are clearly showing massive weakness today. And you look at the Qs, they're holding up. They just went negative though. So notice how the Qs got rejected here, and now rejected here again. So this is becoming a potential failed breakout. And typically from failed breakouts, you get really nasty moves to the downside. XOM still holding up. Semis are still very strong right now. Spiders are at the dead lows. XOM's coming down some more. I'm actually going to add to my XOM at around 102.93. Move this up a little bit. Nvidia is now weakening, so that should weigh in on AMD. Nvidia is starting to see some sell side, but AMD is still so strong. Tesla, we're basically flat on that trade. AMD, we're out of the money. XOM is creating a nice little bounce here, but still weak. Dollar's still at the highs, trying to break higher. This could be a downtrending day, especially if the dollar has an uptrending day. AMD is still ripping. XOM falling. Spiders are hitting some near-term support here. It has to go a little bit lower, but around 410.30, I do have a decent support level. You actually are hitting some support now if I show you this cool little trend line that I'm observing. So take a look at that little trend line that we're on. So that's the support that the spiders are hitting right now. Pivot to pivot to pivot, and we'll see if it can hold that level. Tesla just had a big bounce to the upside. Tesla's trying to go positive, so it's still negative on the session, but it's trying to see some money flow. XOM is bouncing here. AMD is still at the high of the session. We have two more ads on AMD. Basically 102 is the next ad. And then 102.40. 45. Big bounce on Tesla, so that one's going against us right now. I will stop out of this trade in 3 minutes if it continues to push up. But that's a massive bounce in Tesla. XOM we're slightly in the money by about 6 cents. I'm going to add to my Tesla if it pierces this 166.50 area. Basically, I'm seeing it could go all the way up to this trend line here. Spiders are still acting well. AMD's still at the highs. So again, tech is still the only positive sector. So the 2-year yield's back above 4%. Tesla's still ripping. XOM is still just hovering off our level. AMD's just above, holding up well. The Qs are still trying to bounce and hold most of the gains. Alright, I just added at 166.50 on Tesla. 166.50, so it's a 2-6 position short. Basically brings my average up to 165.70. Whoops. So spiders are acting well. AMD is trying to push up again. XOM is just hovering off our level. All sectors still negative. Look at this rip on AMD. AMD is actually still surging higher. Tesla just turned positive. So after Tesla was negative, it just turned positive. If we get a 5-minute close above this 167, I will stop out of the trade for a small loss. Right now we're still okay. The dollar's still strong, but the volume's light, so it is favoring more of that upside. We're still seeing the spiders now trickling lower. They did not get a positive close on that candle. So the spiders are still inside of this red bar, but you are holding support. So now that you've tagged support once, will we continue to move up? We will see. So 103.25 long XOM. We're still short AMD, which right now we're out of the money. We're also out of the money on Tesla. That's okay. We still have maneuverability for the position. Right now the spiders are fighting the 1-year moving average. So Tesla's starting to soften up a little bit more. So Qs are still trying to hold up. Spiders are also trying to hold up here. Nat Gas is putting in nice consolidation to move higher. Home Depot had a pretty big bounce off of the lows, but still weak on the session. Home builders are still weak. AMD has still had a massive, like 7 hours of straight upside. Tesla's still acting well. On the positive side, AMD is still holding up. XOM's getting a nice bounce here, so let's look back at our XOM trade on the long side. In terms of a target on XOM, I think we can look for about 40 cents or more. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for XOM. So spiders are now seeing some more selling, and the Qs are not seeing the selling. Let's take a look at the IWM again. The IWM is starting to come down a little bit, but actually bouncing off the lows here. And the dollar is softening just a little bit here. It's now approaching that 1023 time frame. More weakness in the spiders, still strength in tech. Nvidia is starting to come down a little bit more now. You still have Amazon up 1.5. That one's acting well. Google's up 1.9. AMD is starting to come in a little bit harder now. Made a new nominal high and now it's reversing. Tesla's reversing a little bit. XOM, we're slightly out of the money on that trade. Spiders are coming down. So Tesla's still holding up even with that little decline in the spiders. There's a little bit of a semi-reversal at AMD. Some clear selling is transpiring, but nothing crazy yet. Nothing crazy yet. I am going to prepare to add to my XOM trade. We're approaching the next add level around this 102.93 level. So spiders are still trying to hold this level, but they are weak right now. We'll see if we get any more downside. XOM still falling. Apple's coming down a little bit more now. Qs are seeing a little bit of selling. 102.93 is the next add level on our XOM long trade. 102.93. Tesla's still just trying to fight for the positive side. So Tesla's trying to push up. Spiders are also pushing up. All sectors are still red, except for tech. Lots of selling occurring, but a handful of names are propping this market up. Tesla's now pushing up as well, so that's only going to help the market. AMD is starting to still see some more selling, still holding up though. Massive push on Tesla here. 5-minute close above this pivot, we stop out for a loss on Tesla. Qs are trying to push up as well, so that's helping Tesla. I'm still looking at XOM to add at 102.93. It's not there yet. Alright, so Tesla's on watch for a stop loss. Tesla is on watch for a stop loss, I repeat. This hasn't triggered it yet, but it's looking likely that it may. We'll know our fate in about 2 minutes and 19 seconds on Tesla. Dollar's trying to catch another little bid. AMD still, we're out of the money on AMD. What a push on Tesla though. Big reversal candle on the daily. Could have a retrace Tesla to 167.69. There is a neckline retrace there. We're actually into that level very, very closely. The retrace I'm looking at is this neckline. That's still a big resistance for Tesla. This little pivot trend line over here. That's maybe where it wants to tag. So I'm going to give it a little bit more room to run. And we'll see. I'll actually add one more time to that 167.33 level since we only have a 2-6 position. So I'll add one more time to Tesla, just because that is a pretty decent resistance. XOM still coming down, almost at our next add level, but not there yet. AMD is still hovering at the highs. We're seeing Apple seeing a little bit of selling for Solar's coming down more. All right, big push on Tesla. I just added at 167.50. 167.50. That is my final add on Tesla. I won't add any more. And it's just we got a pierce and a retrace of that full neckline. So now my average is brought up to 166.36. That's a 3-6 position, but I'm not going to add any more. Spiders are pushing up. Look at this move on Tesla. Pretty powerful. The big question is, can we get a 10-minute close above that? That's kind of what I'm watching now. The dollar has softened, which is helping this market now. So the Qs are pushing up for a new high here. The Qs are pushing up for a new high. We're piercing the 100 weekly moving average. That's a massive resistance. Big question is, can it hold? So a little bit of selling occurring in Tesla at this level. Still long XOM, still short AMD. We haven't really seen any hourly selling pressure on AMD for 7 hours straight. Alright, so Tesla's coming in now. You did get a positive close on the 5-minute chart. I'm looking for a confirmation of that close on the 10-minute chart. XOM's almost at the next ad level, guys. So XOM is coming down to our next ad level, which is about a few pennies away. So 102.93. 102.93 is the level that I'm prepared to add at. 102.93. Apple's trying to fall a little bit more now, so that may weigh on the Qs and the SPY. Get ready to add to XOM. So the spiders are starting to see some more selling. Apple's still seeing more selling, so that's going to weigh in on the spiders right now. Google starting to soften up a little bit. Still not a broad market participation in this rally. All sectors still red except for tech. And that's going to keep that way unless Nvidia softens and Google and Microsoft. And Amazon. Amazon's actually performing really well as well. So Apple's almost negative. So it's really coming down to Amazon, AMD, Google, and Nvidia. Those are really the stocks that are holding this market up today. Apple's about to turn red. So it's a few pennies away from turning red. So Apple's testing the lows it made intraday. XOM's coming up into that next ad level, guys. So I'm going to add at 102.93. We've been waiting on that. You want to there? I just got filled at 102.93 on XOM. All right, so now that brings my average down to 103.08. 103.08 average on XOM. That's just 2 entries on XOM. Apple just turned negative. So Apple just turned negative. AMD's still pushing up to the highs. We have basically 2 more ad levels on AMD. Around this 102 is my next ad level. Tesla's still holding up well. You're seeing Meta start to soften just a little bit. AMD is continuing to push higher. Apple just turned negative. So Apple just turned negative, I repeat. AAPL should weigh in on this market. Let's look at the spiders. Spiders are still hovering off of the lows, the QQQ, getting rejected at that double top. So XOM's trying to bounce. Next ad level on XOM is around that 102.53 area. It's basically 40 cents lower. Let's take a peek at Tesla. Tesla's still holding up. Spiders are seeing some more selling. You're seeing the dollar trying to perk back up again. So Apple's continuing to sell. So Apple should wane on this market. Apple has turned negative. Maybe we start to see more tech roll over. We're seeing AMD soften up a little bit. AMD did make another high. Now it's softening. Spiders are trickling lower here. Tesla's actually diverging now and holding its positive gains. So I think what we're seeing is money flowing out of Apple back into Tesla. It's kind of my observation of things. XOM still coming lower, guys. AMD still hovering. AMD, look at this hourly chart on AMD. Look at that move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That should pull in at least back to the pivots here. Tesla's acting well though still. So if Tesla closes above this pivot high, around 167.72 in the next minute 50, I will stop out. That's my stop loss. Every sector still red. Energy is getting slaughtered. XOM's trickling lower now. Oil's actually starting to break down now. That's not going to help our XOM trade. I'm seeing oil showing signs of weakness in the last 10 minutes. It's breaking down from the 71.40 level to now under $71. So that's not going to help XOM. You are being defended right now on XOM, but if oil continues to break, that's not going to bode well. So the dollar's trying to creep back up. We're seeing the spiders break down even more now. Apple's now down 0.06%. Dollars nearing the highs. Spiders are seeing some more selling. Tesla's still holding up. XOM's trying to bounce. You got a 5-minute bottoming tail there. Still very, very weak. You've had now, how many red candles? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th red candle on XOM. Let's check out the CNP. I'm getting an alert on my CNP here. This is center point. So center point is actually no trade there. This is actually a short here because you're getting a bearish close below this green bar. It's more of a swing trade, but this is a potential short, being the fact that you are getting a bearish close. So spiders are still trickling lower here. Tesla's still holding up. AMD is seeing a little bit of minor selling. Apple's still seeing some selling. Tesla did not get a close as of now above that level, so we're still intact. Markets are trying to hold up, and it's really still tech is the common theme. So XOM's catching a small little bounce here. So Tesla's trying to break higher here. Tesla is trying to break higher. It's diverging from the market, showing good strength. So markets are starting to settle down now. It's over that 10:30 time frame. The volume is lightening up. Oil's still weakening. Gold is actually seeing some distribution now, trading near the lows of the intraday. Google's softening a little bit. QQQs are up 0.14%. The spiders are down $1.90. The IWM's down $2.16. So just a little bit of self-reflection on these trades as of now. A little bit of self-reflection on my end. I probably should have picked some stocks in the Russell 2000 and the S&P. Obviously, we're shorting two stocks, AMD and Tesla, which are dominant in the Qs, and the Qs are seeing the relative strength. Now, they could always fall. They are extended. I was picking on Tesla because it was weak, and that turned against us. Probably should have abided by my first stop loss. That would have cut the bleeding because Tesla's looking actually positive now. AMD, I mean, would I have taken that trade again? Yeah, probably I would have, but definitely it pays. It definitely would have been a little bit wiser on my end to maybe pick a little bit of a weaker indice like the Russell and not the Qs, because the Qs are still just seeing a miraculous amount of money flow into it. But needless to say, I mean, there's still good levels. We just need the market and the Qs specifically to see some more downside, which could happen. I mean, I'm still seeing the yield strong. The 20-year yields at the highs, the 10-year yields at the highs. The dollar's pushing for the highs. The Qs are at that 100 weekly MA. So, I mean, there was a lot of factors as to why I'm taking these trades. You have 7 hours of straight upside on AMD. So, we'll just have to see if the market can soften up a little bit and provide us some reprieve on these shorts. But with the lighter volume, I mean, it makes it a lot more difficult. Copper's still exceptionally weak today. Still looking like a downtrending day to the downside. Again, every sector, I'm going to keep harping on that. I've said that numerous times. Every sector is still red today except for tech. And that has been the common theme of 2023. But it just shows you that out of all 11 sectors of the S&P, look how much the markets are up. They're barely down today. And that just shows you the overall weighting of the NASDAQ and the Qs and mega cap tech in this overall market. The concentration is very clear to me. Apple just turned back to the positive side, so that's now holding up. Tesla's up 1% and trying to push. AMD's softening now. XOM is still weak. So Tesla's ripping right now. Spiders are just still stuck, kind of hovering in a range here. So if we look at the SPY, we're still just stuck in a range, creating this wedge pattern. Google's starting to push up again. All mega cap tech is starting to push up again. And we're far from seeing the sectors turn green. It's still only tech right now. Let's flip back to the SPY here. SPY seeing a little bit of consolidation here. XOM is still coming down. Not at our next ad level, but watching it closely. So Tesla's pushing up even more now. Nvidia's charging for the highs. AMD's just off of the highs. Alright, so I'm going to give you the expectations for these trades. I am about to stop out of Tesla here for a loss. That one's kind of gone against us. AMD I'm prepared to hold overnight around this 102. I'm still prepared to add. Actually, because we've got consolidation, I'm not going to add to this position anymore. Unless we got a big straight shot up above 103. 103 and then 103.50 I would add to the position. But right now I'm going to keep this average here. Hold it overnight. In terms of XOM, I will add to this position at 102.53. 102.04. That would be a 4.6. And then 101.50. Basically every 50 cents lower I'll add to XOM. I'm looking for about a 40 to 60 cent gain on that trade. So that's the angle for XOM. We are seeing AMD soften up a little bit here. Tesla's still soaring and roaring. That one has definitely gone against us. We'll see if it gives up any sort of a little bit of game. Spiders are still holding up. It is still looking like a downtrending day across the board, but certainly Tesla has beat us out today. And that's the thing is about sometimes you don't win all the trades. A lot of the times you don't win. AMD's softening. We're still seeing the markets hold up here. I'm just seeing the cues, seeing if we get any sort of more little bit of selling occurring. Right now there isn't any. So let's see if Tesla can come down a little bit, at least give us some of these gains back, or some of these losses back, sorry. Purdy play. I'm just talking to anybody that's in the live stream here. Just doing live market commentary. So for my own track record, anyone that tunes in gets to see what I'm doing. I do these daily streams every day from basically around 9:15 to about 10:30. We're a little bit over the time frame here just because I'm stuck in some trades. But I'm not doing any iron condors. Sometimes I do options, but as of now, I just trade full common shares because I have a large enough portfolio that I don't need to take on the extra risk of options. And the volatility in this market can eat through your options and premium. So I prefer to just stick with common shares right now. My portfolio is at the size where I have enough buying power to scalp profits just with common shares. And I've found over my success rate that just trading common shares has been a lot more successful for me. But again, I mean, options for smaller account holders, even larger ones, are certainly beneficial. You know your risk, you know your reward, you know your potential reward. Tesla's coming down. AMD's coming down a little bit. XOM still off of our level. Seeing the dollar creep back up here. So take a look at this Dixie. So the Dixie, one of the reasons I haven't stopped out is because this Dixie is putting in bullish consolidation to move higher. But I'm very, very close to just cutting this Tesla trade for a loss. I'm just seeing if we can get a little bit more downside. These markets are trying to put in some bearish consolidation. And honestly, Purdy, if you're still in the stream, it's tough to monitor and regulate a live chat when you're working this trading platform, when you're entering and executing your own trades. It's very tough to monitor and type in questions. I try to read your questions, but responding via typing is very, very difficult and not ideal as a trade trader. You know, you got to be in and out quickly. I just try to give you levels on these screens here, but I have about another 4 screens that I'm watching here that you guys don't see. You know, watching multiple charts, trying to find opportunities. So I'm a little less responsive in the actual chat. But if my team brings forth valuable questions, I'll try to do my best to answer them. So Google just made a new high of day. Spiders are still trickling lower. XOM's coming up into the next ad level at 102.50. I am going to pretty much cut this stream to an end after this next ad level. I am seeing the spiders downtrending again, so potentially optimistic that Tesla may come down a little bit. But the stop loss level now is a hard stop, basically above this 168.67. If we get a close above that, that's my stop loss. Okay, so I've given you the parameters of that trade. I've given you the parameters of XOM, which I will add very soon here. And I'm still short AMD, which I'm comfortable holding overnight. On that note, thank you all for tuning in. Please give this video a big like down below. Unfortunately, Tesla went against us, but hey, you win some, you lose some, and that's just the name of the game. Certainly in our live day trading room over the last few, several months, we have provided much more winners than losers. But definitely it's good to reflect on the losers because they do teach you the most. So thank you all, and we'll see you on the charts tomorrow.